Is the bill on track for passage this week? What's the latest here?
Well, I think if you're Republicans, you've kind of learned the hard way this year not to count your chickens before they're hatched. You know, we look back to Obamacare repeal over the summer, and that, looked like it might happen and then didn't. So, but I think in this case, it's slightly different circumstances, and it does look as though the bill is on track to get the votes that it needs to get to the president potentially by Wednesday, in 48 hours from now. I think, the Senate is kind of the X factor that's still a little bit out there. We heard last night that, John McCain, who is, battling brain cancer, isn't going to be able to be there this week to vote. So Republicans only have a 52-seat majority. That leaves them a very small margin to work with. Not having McCain there narrows that margin even further. So, it could be a nail-biter, but if they get all the Republicans on board, and it's looking at this point like they might, they'll get the votes that they need, and they'll pass it and send it to the president.
How important is this politically to the Republican Party to pass this tax measure this year?
Well, I think it's critical. I think it's absolutely essential for them politically heading into the midterms, which are really going to be the big story of 2018. Republicans obviously control both chambers of Congress, the House and the Senate. There's already a lot of talk about their House majority potentially being vulnerable. There was a story out this weekend about voters wanting a, Democratic Congress, or the calls among voters for a Democratic Congress are at the highest level since 2008, so in 9 years. I think that all those kinds of stories are going to be worrisome for Republicans, and at the point that they don't have something like this tax proposal to run on, that's going to be problematic. On the flip side of the coin, I think that the issue that they get if they do pass this and the president signs it into law is that, they've made a lot of promises about what this is going to mean for voters, and I think that the question is, whether or not voters actually feel that impact by the time they go to the polls in November. I think that, one interesting aspect of that is, as Anna just said, the president keeps kind of making these promises about the economy is going to rock. He keeps kind of upping the level of the
rocking.
Yeah, the rocking, exactly. The
rocking
level
to 6% now.
Exactly, rocking to 6% instead of just 3%. So I think, every time the president does that and kind of ups the ante, it increases the expectations and it makes it harder for Republicans to deliver.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, isn't it? I mean, so in terms of the tax question is enough to deal with, isn't it, the week before the holidays, and yet we also have the potential for government shutdown. This a gift that was a sort of can that was kicked a couple of weeks ago. Remind us where we are on that one, Kathleen.
Well, so government funding expires on Friday, so 3 days before Christmas. I think nobody politically really wants the prospect of the optics of a government shutdown 3 days before Christmas are, to put it mildly, not great. And so I think that there's a lot of pressure on Congress to get something done. But I think that both sides are trying to use that as leverage now to get what they want in a spending bill. Republicans in the House put forth a proposal that's very heavy on increases in defense spending. There's really not the support for that in the Senate. So now they're kind of lobbying. They're going to be lobbying proposals back and forth this week. And, the danger in that is always that they get to the last minute and they're really not able to get the votes together. And we've seen that happen before. So, wait and see this week.